All right, welcome to another edition of Favorite Funny, and coming to you from Radio Titans and all sorts of other fine podcasting outlets and videocast outlets. But this week, I'm your host, Carl Kozlowski. This week, I'm bringing you one of the funniest guys in America, as far as I'm concerned, and millions of others, because he's been in multiple New York Times best-selling author. I think he's even hit #1 on the list. And he's the author of such books as The Year of Living Biblically, The Know-It-All, and Drop Dead Healthy. And I'm very delighted to have him tonight to discuss some of the funniest moments and favorite funny things of his life. Ladies and gentlemen, AJ Jacobs. Okay, how are you?
Thank you, Carl. Thank you for that lovely introduction. Very generous.
Do you like the studio audience? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
raucous.
Oh yeah. So thanks for doing this. You're out in New York City, right?
That's right.
Wow. Okay. So not very funny times out there. Was it with the lockdown, or is things getting better?
Well, I think things are getting, they just announced that starting next week, everyone over 16 will be allowed to be vaccinated. So
That's good.
I have 2 kids, 3 kids. One is 17, and so he'll be safe. The others, not so much.
Oh, geez. Wow. All right. Well, hey, we're here to make people laugh. So I'm going to run through This Is Your Life of Funny. So where'd you grow up? And I read about your dad that he apparently set a Guinness World Record for the most footnotes ever in a legal article.
Yes, I'm very proud of him. My dad is a lawyer, wow, but he's an eccentric person, and one of his claims to fame is that he set the world record for most footnotes, 4,812. So that is a buttload of footnotes in an article.
Wow, that's crazy. But you were growing up where, in New York or somewhere else?
Yeah, I grew up right here in New York City, and yeah, I was went to school here, and then went to school in Providence. And then I worked at a tiny newspaper covering sewage. I did a lot of stories about sewage, and then I went on to write books.
Wow. So I mean, what was like your first big break before we get to the funny stuff? Like, so people can get a sense of, it's cool when somebody's willing to admit that they weren't always as successful as they were. And you're saying, you admit you covered sewage for a small paper. So how did you make that leap? Like, what was the moment you knew, hey, I might actually get to really do this on a cool level?
Yeah, I got hired by a newspaper in New York to be what I thought was a reporter, but it turned out to be like an assistant and a fact checker. So that was stressful. But then I went to work for Entertainment Weekly, and
cool.
One of my first big breaks there was actually, I happened to look a lot like a sort of a C-level movie star at the time. This was a long time ago. He was in this movie called Shine that came out, I don't remember, like 20 years ago. And it was Oscar nominated. It was with Jeffrey Rush.
They thought you looked like Jeffrey Rush?
I didn't look, I looked like the guy who played the character as like a teenager.
Oh, Noah Taylor, right?
Wow, you have a good memory. Yeah.
Hey, I was a Rotten Tomatoes film critic, so I know.
Holy moly. I'm impressed. Yeah, I looked exactly like Noah Taylor, and I had even like the weird sort of I don't know what you call it, page boy haircut and these big thick glasses. It was not a good look, but it did look a lot like him. And it turned out he was not going to the Oscars. And so my editors and I decided maybe I should go in his stead and represent him at the Oscars. So I went there. I went to the Oscars dressed in a tuxedo. I never said I was Noah Taylor, but people just assumed it because I looked so much like him. And I signed autographs, and it was like the paparazzi went crazy. And I did interviews on all sorts of outlets like Norwegian TV. And,
oh my God.
Yeah, it was fan. Will Smith told me he was a fan, and Chris Farley sadly, rest in peace. He was a big fan.
Wow, no
So
kidding.
yeah, and it was fantastic because I knew deep down I was not this great actor. But I had so much positive feedback. It was hard not to feel good. Like my ego got really big. Like I remember I came back to New York and I was in a online at a drugstore and I was like, don't they know who I am? And I was like, oh no, I'm nobody. I'm so that was
Yeah.
one of my first big breaks.
Wow. Well, for people who may not know Shine, I would say Noah Taylor's other biggest role was probably being the bad guy in Quantum of Solace, the James Bond movie. He was
Oh,
in
I
that.
didn't even know that.
Yeah. That's probably, I think it's the worst Daniel Craig James Bond movie, but hey, he's in it if you're curious
I
to
won't
look
take
at
it personally.
AJ before and after. No, kidding, I don't know.
That's right.
But
A lot of
yeah,
people
so
also said I looked like McLovin
oh
from
my God, that I'd say more. Yeah, I'm sorry to say. Sorry.
I don't mind.
Don't cut
Listen,
me off.
it was
Yeah.
I remember I was with my wife in the theater. We watched it and we looked at each other and like, that guy looks a lot like me. And then everywhere I went for like a month, people were like, hey, McLovin.
That guy drives, I forget what it was, but I saw his car one time. I saw a car one time in Century City, a convertible, some badass convertible, and it said McLovin on the license
Oh,
plate.
really? It's
And
good for
sure
him.
enough, like later on, he was heading to his car, and so he drives around sporting license plates saying McLovin. Talk about hanging on to some your glory, huh? I mean,
Good for him.
yeah. But so you went from Entertainment Weekly, and you wound up being like the head editor at Esquire, right?
Not quite the head, but
Oh,
I was an editor there and a writer, and I loved it. David Granger was the editor, but I wrote a lot there. I wrote a piece that got a good amount of traction, which was called, it was about a movement called radical honesty, where it started by a psychologist in Virginia, and the idea is that there's no filter between your brain and your mouth. So if it's the if you are having fantasies about your wife's sister, you tell your wife and you tell her sister. You say like I hate my job to your boss. It's just a disaster.
or in this case, like during our interview, me saying you look like McLovin.
Oh
Radical
yeah,
honesty.
that was good, radical honesty. Yeah, you would be a perfect candidate.
Oh
Uh,
God.
yeah,
Don't be
good.
radically honest with me though. I can't take it. No, but so what happened then? So what happened with the assignment?
Well, in parts were a disaster, like, just telling my wife that I was bored with her story. And oh, we went to a restaurant and I remember these people came up to us and they were my wife's friends from college that she hadn't seen, and they were all excited. They were like, oh, we should all hang out. And I said, I said, you seem nice, but I just have no interest in ever seeing you again
Oh my
because
God.
I don't have enough time to see my friends. So, my real friends. So, my wife was horrified. I was horrified at myself. They were horrified. We never did see them again. So there's that. It was effective. I won't say it was. So I don't recommend radical honesty totally, but I will say there were parts of it that were actually liberating and good. And I believe in radical positive honesty. So like, saying, calling up, your mentor or your hero from when you were a kid and saying how much they meant to you. That's a good kind of radical honesty.
That's kind of like this interview right here, AJ.
Yeah, you
Just
are
being
my
radically
hero. You're
honest.
my childhood hero.
No, I mean
Exactly.
vice versa. Come on.
No, right back at you.
Yeah. So yeah. So then, when did the whole idea of being a human guinea pig for all these books come? Well, I guess that was one of them. Was that the first? Where
Yeah, it
you
was
were
one of
with
the
the story?
first was going to the Oscars. And then
Oh,
I
okay,
like
okay.
I said, that this is an interesting way to write and make a living. So my first book was where I decided when I was a kid, my dad loves to read and he decided to read the encyclopedia from A to Z. and he didn't
Oh,
finish.
God.
He only made it to like the B's, like bamboo or something. So I decided I would try to finish what he began and, restore the reputation of the family. And so that was my first book, reading the encyclopedia and trying to learn every single thing in the world, every fact. There it
Wow.
is.
Wow. So like, what was the funniest thing that happened? Because that wound up becoming a book, The Know-It-All. That was your first bestseller. And like, do you have a particularly favorite funny moment from that?
Well, it was a challenge for me, but it was also a challenge for my family because
Uh-huh.
I was so filled with information that I couldn't help but share it. So my wife would penalize. She would fine me for $1 for every irrelevant fact I inserted in the conversation. So, she would say like, oh, I have a headache, and I'd say, did you know that the Bayer Aspirin Company invented heroin, which is true. They patented heroin as a
Wow.
suppressant. And
They
she
were
was
also
like,
run by the Nazis, weren't they? I thought Hitler had something to do with
there,
Bayer.
I believe that's true. I believe that's true. So
See,
yeah,
I'm a know-it-all too, AJ.
neither good for you. I won't fine you $1. I I encourage it. So anyway, she made a lot of money during that year.
Wow. Huh. Okay, so then the Living Biblically, was that what came up next?
That was the next book, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
so in that one, you like basically you were like, correct me if I'm wrong, but I interviewed you once before, and I think you were a secularly raised Jewish culturally, but you didn't particularly practice, and you found it intriguing. What if somebody could actually follow for 365 days every imaginable rule in the Bible, Old and New Testament? And so you like grew out your beard like crazy. You started wearing like weird robes on the streets of New York City. I mean, what are some of the other things that you did?
yeah, well, there are about 700 rules in the Bible. So if you try to follow them all, it's quite a full-time job. Yeah, as you say, you can't shave your beard. You can't shave the corners of your beard. I didn't know
Oh,
where the corners were, so I just let the whole thing grow, and I looked like Ted Kaczynski or Gandalf.
or ZZ
I
Top,
what?
or ZZ Top,
Oh yeah, I
right?
got a lot of ZZ Top references there. I did. You cannot wear clothes made of two different kinds of fabrics. That's in Leviticus. So I had to get
Oh,
rid
that
of
sucks.
all poly cotton blends, and you can't say the name of pagan gods. So I couldn't say like the days of the week are named after Wednesday and Thursday is named after Thor. So you can't. So it was just and then there were the harder ones, like I had to stone adulterers. That was not
How
easy.
did you do that? I forget. Or
I
tell
used
the listeners.
I use very small stones. I use sort of the pebble sized, and that's how I. But it was actually the guy who I stoned did not like it. He did not, even though they were pebbles. He was
How
not
did
into
you
it.
how did you know he was an adulterer?
Well, I was dressed up in my robes and sandals, and he. Oh, uh-oh, Carl, come back.
Okay. Hello?
He's back.
1 second, my video stopped. Wonderful. We're gonna have to cut this out.
I don't think
Ah,
you should. I think that was good
I know,
physical
but
comedy.
now I can't see anything.
That was
Can you
like
see me?
it was a pratfall. Not yet.
Can you
Not,
see me?
not yet. Not yet. But
Okay.
there
Well,
you
there we
are.
go. I'm
All
back in
right.
safe driving mode. Safe driver, save 40%. This show is sponsored by Allstate. That's
There you
why.
go.
No, okay. Yeah,
That was good shtick right there.
I know, right? That's what I'll hit up next. Why not? We got Bill Clinton coming. Okay. 1 second. Let me make sure I got this. Bear with me, folks. Okay. Okay, so we won't do that again. I'm sorry, you're talking about the adulterer. How did you figure out who it was?
Well, I was the middle of the year, so I had on my robe and my beard and sandals, and this man, I was in New York City in Central Park, and a guy came up to me and said, why are you dressed like that? And I explained, I'm trying to follow all the rules of the Bible, from the 10 Commandments to stoning adulterers. He said, I'm an adulterer. are you going to stone me? And I said,
Wow.
that would be fantastic. What a wonderful offer. So I pulled out the stones from my pocket and I showed them to him, and they were small. He grabbed them out of my hand and threw them at my face. So I thought, an eye for an eye, I could stone him. So that's how I checked off the stoning on my list.
Oh wow, that's crazy. Was that like the like most harshly biblical thing you did, or was that must have been up there, right?
That was
As
up
far
there.
as like,
I
yeah,
mean, there were some wonderful rules like, don't gossip and don't lie. And, those are hard in their own right. But then,
yeah,
yeah, there was the stoning of adulterers. I couldn't touch my wife while she was menstruating. And,
no.
and actually, Leviticus says you can't even sit in a seat where a menstruating woman has sat, because then she
Oh
is
my.
made impure. And my wife found that offensive, so she sat in every seat in our apartment. And I had to stand for the remainder of the year. So,
Oh my
it was
God.
hard.
Wow. So, would you feel comfortable or uncomfortable talking about the CBS sitcom?
Oh, I'm fine talking about it.
Yeah,
Uh,
because that was kind of a weird thing because I was really looking forward to it because the book is so awesome, and then the sitcom was, I don't know, it was weird. It was just didn't have the same magic, and it didn't last very long. It was called Living Biblically, and it lasted like I think 7 episodes, if that,
yep,
on
that's
CBS.
about it.
Yeah.
I mean, everything has their good and bad. So the good was it was a wonderful experience, like meeting the actors and the people. The guy who played me was Jay. Oh, I can't
Jay
remember.
Underwood, right?
What's that?
Jay Underwood, I think.
Is that? I don't think that's his name.
Oh, maybe I got. Oh, Jay Russell. Jay O. Russell, I think.
Maybe he played the boyfriend of Peggy on Mad Men.
I don't
And
know. Well, folks,
well,
you look it up. We'll keep talking. Okay.
okay, sorry,
Yeah.
Jay. I'm
No,
a
no,
big
it's cool.
fan. He's a great guy. And it was produced by Johnny Galecki from Big Bang
Oh,
Theory.
wow.
And they were wonderfully talented people and writers, but something happened. I think it was the CBS machine just turned it into like oatmeal. And so
Yeah.
even something, I knew things were going awry when uh, CBS told us that he could not have a beard, which was, I actually like the image of me with my biblical beard, I think sold 80% of the books
Yeah,
because I
that's the
looked so,
cover.
yeah,
Yeah.
I looked like, Moses or Jesus. And they said, no, we don't want to scare people with the beard. He might look too crazy like a terrorist. So,
Yeah.
I was like, uh-oh, that doesn't bode well. So yeah, it was not my favorite show to watch,
Yeah.
but it was a fun experience. I got to go out there and eat the craft services and meet all the nice people.
So, like on a slightly more serious note, like, I remember, in the book you talk about that you actually learned some things along the way, like, that it made you appreciate your heritage more. And I mean, could you speak to that? Like what you think you might have learned from doing the Living Biblically
Yeah,
experience?
I mean, tons of lessons that made my life better. I mean, a big one was gratitude. I wrote a whole book on my most recent book is about gratitude, and that was inspired
Oh
by
yeah.
the year of living biblically. I learned, as you say, I think it was really interesting to get to know my heritage a little more and see uh, the beauty of rituals, which is something that I didn't really appreciate until then. Uh, because even if you're not a believer, and I'm pretty agnostic, you can still find meaning and beauty in rituals. So I do like we just had Passover here in New York, and that was lovely. And rituals in general are great. Uh, Birthday cakes that's a ritual, and even though it's not particularly rational, it's lovely, and
Yeah.
it's something that gives structure and meaning to our lives.
All right. Well, so then you did the Drop Dead Healthy, and I want to say that this will bring a tear to your eye, AJ. I'm sure. In the past year, I moved home from LA after a couple of layoffs. I had a newspaper and a radio job go south within 3 months of each other.
Sorry.
And since coming home, I was reading your book, just trying to laugh. And I thought, why don't I get my act together? And so I've lost 50 pounds. I've almost kicked diabetes, which was getting pretty bad.
Wow.
I had a sleep disorder for 17 years that kept me from driving. And we've cured that. I now started driving 2 weeks ago.
Oh my God.
And then we also found that you've always been kind because you don't know me too well, but I've had so many contacts with famous people through being an entertainment journalist and a podcaster and a radio host over the years. But there's tons of people. Some people are loyal and cool, and they'll keep coming back like you. I guess glutton for punishment. But then there's a lot of people that I wound up rubbing the wrong way by saying something clueless. I'm very much, people compare me to Larry David on Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Sure.
And so the thing is that I also learned since I got home, that I learned at age 49 that I have Asperger's, which is why I'm squinting some of the time, folks. And so the thing is that you can be clueless about social interactions. And, and so I would say the most dumb things at the worst possible time to really famous people and, missed out. So, but the thing is, your book gave me the inspiration to do the 50,000-mile checkup on myself and get out there and, get my act together.
That does bring a tear to my eye. I am so delighted. And most important, congratulations on everything, on the losing the weight and the sleep disorder and just the motivation. I'm so impressed. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. But what was it? So tell people the story behind that. You were like, what motivated you to try and do? Because it was an experience you tried to do in a year, just like Know It All. You read the encyclopedia in a year, correct? And then
right. I was trying to be the healthiest person alive in a year, but it actually took more like 2.5 years because I needed a lot of work. And I never became the healthiest person alive, but I certainly improved. And that began because I was in terrible shape. I just ate Cheetos and hung out on the couch, never exercised. And my wife was the one who said, I got really sick, like with pneumonia, and was in the hospital. And my wife said, I don't want to be a widow, so you better get your act together. And I said, all right, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to go all in like you are. And I just did. I tried to reform everything from the way I ate, the way I exercised, to the way I went to the bathroom. That was a chapter. There was a chapter, the way I walked and talked, and so it was a full body mind makeover.
Wow, that's great. What do you have a favorite funny moment from that experience?
Well, I'd say, I don't know. I think it's funny. It's certainly strange. I remember I was doing the book is organized into different body parts. So I was doing the chapter on butts, and I interviewed this colorectal surgeon about taking care of your butt and proper pooping procedure. That's hard to say. And he
it's like the payment protection plan. You have the proper pooping procedure. You should send that to Biden.
Good idea. But this guy told me that he had a bunch of patients, not like one or two, a bunch of patients who had come to him and gotten surgery on their rectums to change the tone of their farts. They thought that their fart was like either too low or too high. I can't remember which one, but it was, they wanted to fart in a more, mellifluous way.
Wow.
And I was like, people are weird. People are definitely.
Some people have too much disposable income. That's the thing.
That is like, if there's a revolution, like a Marxist revolution, I will point to that as exhibit. Like, you know what? I kind of understand.
Yeah, boy. So, let's see. I was gonna also. Oh yeah. So you did this project. This is one I don't know anything about. So I'm sorry that I wasn't up to speed on this. I was reading your website today and I found this. What on earth? What's going on with the world's biggest family reunion or whatever? What's that?
Yeah. That was a book I did about 5 years ago, and that started because I got a call out of the blue from a or an email, and he said, "You don't know me, but I'm your 12th cousin." And I thought, this guy's a Nigerian scammer who's going to ask me to wire $10,000. But instead, it turned out he was just one of this group of researchers and scientists who are building a family tree of the entire world. That's their goal. And they haven't reached
Wow.
it yet, but they've got like 150 million people on this family tree, the biggest family tree in history.
Jeez.
And I loved it. So I am, I could figure out how I was cousins with almost anyone on earth. Like Barack Obama was my
Wow.
fifth great aunt's husband's brother's wife's seventh great nephew. So
Wow,
we're
really?
pretty close. Yeah, we're pretty tight.
Well,
Uh,
hey, you're no worse than Elizabeth Warren being, 1043rd Indian.
there you go. So anyway, yeah, I love the idea, and I decided to make it concrete by trying to throw the biggest family reunion ever and invite all 7 billion of my cousins. And we didn't get all 7 billion, but we got like 4,000 in New York and another 10,000 around the world who threw their like sort of separate branch family reunions, and it was crazy. It was a crazy, weird. We had it was like a joke. We had a priest, a rabbi, and an imam, and an atheist, and
Wow.
we had Sister Sledge come, and they sang "We Are Family."
Yeah,
So it was a nutty experience.
that's awesome. And so, what's the name of the book so people can read about that?
That's called "It's All Relative."
Okay. And was there video of this that people can find? At least Sister
Yeah.
Sledge. We got to have Sister Sledge.
Oh no, it's online. I think if you search YouTube for Global Family Reunion, that's what it was called, Global Family Reunion.
Wow, that's wild. Okay, so then I guess we'll start talking about some of your. Oh yeah, well I was going to ask about your personal life. Some of the funniest things, like when you were a kid, you said your parents accused you of faking having a pacifier or something.
Yeah, I mean, the family legend is that when I was, 6 months old or a year old, I played a practical joke. I pranked my parents and pretended to have lost my pacifier, and I was crying and crying, and then they said had a suspicion that I hid it. So they said, came up to me and said, "AJ, where is it?" And I was like, "It's over there." Now, do I believe this story? Not at all, because I don't think that I even had at that age the idea of object permanence. Like, I don't think I even knew what that the pacifier, when it disappeared, that it would come back. So, but that is the story. So
Wow.
my parents are sticking to it.
Okay, so then with your wife, like you've been married a long time, right? Like how many years?
About 20 years. Yeah.
Wow. So do you have a favorite funny moment from either your wedding or your relationship with her?
Well, my proposal was intriguing. I
Oh yeah,
proposed.
you told me.
So this was her favorite show was Sex and the City, and I was working at Entertainment Weekly magazine, and I got the assignment to cover Sex and the City. So I went to the set to interview the actresses, and I asked the publicist, I can you think that they would help me propose? Like, I could film them saying something about how they that this bachelor from New York, AJ Jacobs, is off the market because he wants to marry Julie Jacobs. And I could
They
think,
should also tell your wife that you're Mr. Big.
I
Anyway,
was Mr. Small to medium. But
aren't we all?
so yeah, it was
Uh,
so that was a wild experience. But I mean, the stressful part was I got on set and they gave me the headphones where you can hear what the actors are saying in between scenes. And literally, I put on the headphones and I can hear Kim Cattrall talking to Sarah Jessica Parker, and they're on a beach like 50 yards away. And I hear Kim Cattrall say something along the lines of, "I can't believe we have to fucking help this. Oh, sorry. I can't believe we have to effing help this reporter with his proposal. Like, that's not my job." And I was like sweating bullets, and I was like, "Oh my God, I just thought it would be cute. I don't want to inconvenience them." And then uh, the publicist was like, oh no, don't worry about it. And then everyone else did it, and Kim Cattrall apologized and said that she was on the rag. That was her quote. She says, I'm sorry, I was on the rag.
And so therefore you couldn't go anywhere near a chair with her at that point.
Excellent callback.
Yeah, that's what we do. So so tell me like about uh, like various favorite funny things. That's what I'm hoping to share with people, is turn them on to great things that inspire our best funny people. What moves them, therefore they can pick up on it. So what would you say your favorite funny movie is?
One of them is The Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
Yeah.
With Jim Carrey and Kate Winslet. I don't know if you remember, but I just thought it was brilliant.
Yeah.
And the premise was all about how there's this service that could erase your bad memories so you forgot your romances. But it just had such great writing. I mean, I remember Jim Carrey's line when he's particularly down, he's at the beach, and he says, sand is overrated. It's just tiny little rocks. And I love that. That's true. I also believe sand is overrated. It's just tiny little rocks. What's the big deal? So I thought that was one of the most creative movies ever made.
Wow, that's great. But you also liked Groundhog Day, right? Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm a big fan of Groundhog's Day.
Yeah.
Just the fact that they took one theme and just did like 100 different angles on it, I thought was absolutely brilliant. So,
well, I'll have to send you a link after we're done. I did a sitcom pilot, just my own self-funded thing or whatever, but attempted something, and I had Stephen Tobolowsky in it, the character actor, and he plays Ned Ryerson in Groundhog Day.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you the whole story off air sometime, but we wound up filming the sitcom 3 times with 3 different scripts over 3 years, just to wind up with a 15-minute, proof of concept. And all 3 times, God bless him, he just thought that the experience was so weird, and there was something that drew him to me, that he agreed to play himself 3 different versions of this thing. And the 3rd time he goes, "This is it. This is turning into a real life Groundhog Day, Carl." And so we got it right the 3rd time, sort of. So
Oh, that's awesome. You made him relive it. That's great.
If anybody wants to see it, you can go to my site, carlkoz.com, and look for the Vimeo link in the middle. There's a lot of goofy photos of me with Steven and other people. So anyway, that's my cheap horror way of getting people to finally watch the thing.
Yeah.
So, but it is good. I am proud of it. So then as far as books, you're saying that Rachel Bloom is got a new book that you like a lot, huh?
Yeah, this is a recent one. I mean, it's not a lifelong favorite, but it just came out, and it's called I Want to Be Where the Normal People Are. Is that what it's called?
Okay.
I should have looked it up again. But Rachel Bloom, the one from Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, it's her memoir.
Yeah, she's great.
And she's fantastic. And it is, I mean, it starts off by, it says something like, you think you were bullied in middle school? You were not bullied in middle school. I was bullied in middle school. I am the ultimate judge of bullying, and I conclude that I was bullied. Court adjourned, gavel goes bang, bang. And then she goes on to tell just the most humiliating stories about getting bullied in middle school. But she does it in such a brilliantly funny way.
She's great. Yeah. Well, I have a cool little story about her. Okay, so I've been running my podcast business. Like, this is the first thing I'm doing in like 3 years with a new show. I got burned out and stopped, but I ran it from 2008 to 18. This thing, Radio Titans, and you can go to, here I'm whoring again. You can go to radiotitans.com under greatest hits and find this episode that had Rachel Bloom that I'm about to mention. But the thing is, she was somebody who I saw at the Upright Citizens Brigade Theater in Los Angeles, which is, in my mind, the greatest comedy theater in America. And she was performing in a show back in 2014 or so, where it was all these performers who were not quite famous, they were on their rise, were asked to sing a favorite song in a funny way, or tell the funny story of why it was their favorite song. hers was Rent, the song "Are We Gonna Pay the Rent?" And so hers was it was either Rent or it was La Vie Boheme, one of those two, the showstoppers from Rent. And anyway, so I think it was Rent, yeah. So she like is performing it, but she does it with all the character voices, acting it out 20 different ways on stage. And she's even pounding the floor during a part where they're all stopping. And it was just the most amazing thing I'd ever seen. I had no idea who she was. And I was just awestruck. And I said, hey, would you come on this podcast I had called Pajama Party, where I would have people do like it was off the wall, more off the wall than most podcasts. They would do odd things, and we would do it 10 o'clock on Monday nights. And so she's like, sure, I guess I'll, yeah, sure. And she goes, I'm kind of busy, but I'll do it. And so we were like, okay, so we were all excited. And then she calls me and says right before showtime, and we would do this live. Like of course you could go to tape, but our thing, we were known for, hey, we would actually do our shows live and people could tune in that way too. So we find out she has to back out and she is the guest for the night. And I'm like, why are you backing out? This is like 5 minutes to showtime. And she's like, well, oh my God, okay, so this thing is, I have this TV show, it's my dream show, and I've been turned down by 5 networks, and I have one last shot, and it's with the CW tomorrow. and she's like, I'm freaking out. I hope you understand. And I was, and because being Larry David, I'm the a-hole who has to go, yeah, but you're supposed to be on my dinky little podcast in 5 minutes. And so I sold her on. I said, well, look, this will get your mind off of that. Just come have some laughs. And so instead, I made her panic running across Los Angeles in her car, and she shows up just in time for the second half. And we have her come in, and she sings Rent just like she did on the show. And she's slamming her hand on the table the way that she did on stage. And it was awesome. And then the next day, she goes to her meeting with the CW, and she landed My Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. And she wound up dropping me an email later going, wow, man, you're right. You helped me get my mind off of things. And so so I'm sort of tangentially.
Wow. Yeah, you caused Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. Thank you for that, Carl. I love that show.
She's great.
That's fantastic. That is a great story. Nicely done.
Well, thank you, sir. So yeah. So what are your favorite TV shows, like funny TV shows?
Well, I did love Veep. Veep was really one of my favorites. Just because I know the people in Hollywood don't like this, but I do watch my shows in double speed.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I love it.
Why? What's that about? It sounds like a Robert Palmer Addicted to Love. Your mind is racing double speed, right?
Yeah, so I am addicted to double speed. It is. I mean, you can watch a sitcom in like 13 minutes. It's fantastic.
No way, really?
You can get, well, yeah.
But don't they talk like they're chipmunks?
No. It's like in podcasts how you can double speed it. They've adjusted it so they don't sound like chipmunks. They just sound like they're really don't. They sound like they're on meth or something. Like But you can watch twice as much. You can get. You can blow through New Girl in like 3 days. So it's fantastic. But Veep was so dense. The writing was so dense and clever that I had to watch it in single speed. So to me, that was quite a compliment.
Okay. And you had another favorite also, didn't you?
Well, there was the classics like The Office. I love. I'm in the middle of. I'm actually watching Superstore right now, which I'm really enjoying. You like it?
Well, here's the thing. I never wanted to watch it because I thought the Office was like, seriously, I was obsessed with The Office. I still am. And I thought, oh, this looks like a ripoff, even though I heard good things. Well, get this. I now have to watch because this is really embarrassing. I'm breaking the magic of what a glamorous star I am here. I am up for an awesome job interview this week for a much better job, but I got a job as a cashier at Walmart just last week. And it's so funny. I'm having such a good time. I'm no lie, even this isn't just for the bosses. Like for whatever reason, I'm getting away with cracking jokes with all the customers, and I'm loving it because a friend said, "Yeah, it's like you're performing stand-up for 8 hours a day." And so anyway, I got to watch Superstore now because a friend of mine who's a comic in New York named Dan McCarthy has worked at Walmart for like 20 years, and he's always raving about that show and telling me, you got to watch this. Now I'm going to get it finally.
That's
So, yeah.
fantastic. Yeah, it is. I think you'll definitely connect with it. And
Huh.
yeah, and one of the characters does do like, a lot of banter with the customers. So he's you.
Okay.
That's great.
Wow. So then, let's see what else here. Oh, favorite comedian.
I have a lot of comedians I love. The one I wrote down to you was Conan O'Brien because
Oh, yeah.
I got to meet him when I was working at Entertainment Weekly. And two things about it. One is I just thought he was a lovely guy. He's just partly because I think he found fame later in his life, like,
Yeah.
when he was 25. I
Yeah.
think that if in some ways you kind of emotionally stop growing as soon as you become super famous. So if you become famous when you're 12, like, you might have the emotional maturity of a 12-year-old. Not always, but sometimes. But anyway,
Yeah.
he was great. And I remember, since the show is about finding funny, I asked him like, what is funny? And I was expecting like a philosophical answer about, humor is the gap between our expectations and reality, or something profound. And he said, here's what I think is funny. Lotion, anything, moisturizer, any unguents. And he went on with synonyms for lotion for about 2 minutes. And he's like, that's what I think is funny. It's like, okay, I can't argue with it. He's a genius.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is one of the keys to humor is lotion, apparently.
Well, I didn't actually meet him. I have a near meeting. This is short. This one, I was leaving the ArcLight Hollywood movie theater one day, which is where all the stars go, and not that I'm one of them, but you know what I'm saying. And so I go there, and I'm walking out, and I'm going into the parking lot, and I look at this long line that's curling up the stairs, waiting to validate tickets. And Conan O'Brien, lo and behold, is just standing there in the middle of the line, like, and I don't know how common that was, because I ran into countless stars through my job or just
Right.
luck running into people, but I never saw one actually trying to act like a normal person and blend into the parking validation line.
That is
And
so nice. Yeah.
and he's trying to blend in, but he has like that crazy pompadour, and
And he's
I
like
shoot him
8 feet
this
tall.
look.
Right.
Yeah, and I give a look, and my jaw kind of dropped, like, ooh, because I'm shameless. Like my friends all laugh that I'm not afraid to approach anybody, but I give him my jaw drops. I start smiling, and then he just I've heard he's a nice guy. I'm friends with Brian Kiley, who's his head monologue writer, but that moment, it was just like, please no. He just shot me this look like, no, not now. And I just like turned and walked away, ashamed of
Oh,
my whorishness.
well,
Yeah.
no, he was maybe having an off day. He had some
No,
bad
no, no.
days.
I mean, I'm not knocking him whatsoever. He has a right to have his private moment, and I'm saying to his credit, he was blending in with
Yeah,
people.
yeah, that is
And the last
impressive.
thing he wants is some guy to make a big scene or whatever.
Exactly.
He just wants his validation, but not my kind of validation. Um, so I guess the last thing I want to ask is, oh no, there's two things I forgot to ask about. You were saying that you got rejected for your looks, that people said you were too ugly to be an author. What the hell was that about?
Yeah, that was my first book I was trying to market. It was uh the agent sent it to a bunch of publishers, and the one of the publishers said they were interested, but they just wanted to see a photo of me. This was a long time ago, before Google image search.
Uh-huh.
So I was like, all right. And I said, what's up with that? And my agent said, oh, don't worry. They just want to make sure you can go on a talk show and not look, you don't have two heads. So I went and I got a photo taken at Walmart, by the
Oh
way.
God.
And
Ding.
I sent it to them, and my agent calls the next day and said, well, they're going to pass. And I was like, what the hell? Like, I'm not good looking enough to be an author. So yeah, that was brutal. But it's, I think character building, as they say, You know,
But that's
failure is what?
I'm saying. That's what you get for thinking you can get your glamour shot at Walmart, though.
It was my fault. If I
I
had
mean,
gone to like
if you only
Costco,
went to Sears, you would have made
here,
it.
Target, I think that would have been
Yeah,
like a
Target.
more
Yeah,
upscale. Yeah.
yeah.
Uh, so
I mean, the
anyway,
Sears Family Portrait Studio. You know.
oh, I forgot about that. See, I
Yeah.
needed you as my as my advisor.
Okay. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, that was it. You
Oh,
know, it was brutal, but in the end, I mean, the weird button on that story is actually it was the publisher that did that to me was Crown, and my new book is for Crown. So
it all comes
you
full
know,
circle.
it came
Yeah.
full circle. Exactly.
Well, you know, I have a funny photo story from just this past week. Also, I discovered so Facebook sent me a horrible memory. You know how Facebook will throw random stuff at you, and usually it's positive, and you're like, "Oh, that was cool that that happened." And are you there?
Yeah, I don't know what
Oh,
happened.
I have a photo of you, and not. I don't know
Oh,
if
I
that's your
see.
headshot.
Oh, I see. Okay, I'm back. I must have pressed something weird.
That
Okay.
was really ugly, JJ. No kidding.
Ah,
But no, so Facebook, they posted a memory, this horrible photo from when I weighed like 60 pounds more, and I'm wearing this light purple shirt and a purple tie with some dots on it, and I was on stage at the Ice House in Pasadena, California, performing, right? And so this guy took my shot, and I didn't realize that about 5 6 years ago, I'm in New York City, and there's a and I see I come off the subway. I'm just visiting, and I see this billboard in the subway. You know how they do them on the walls, and it was a Samsung ad campaign, and it says something about it was implying that it shows this fat guy on stage holding a mic, wearing a purple shirt and purple tie, and and my eyes are squinted. The guy, you know, it was me, you know, with my eyes squinted, and they tried to imply that I was some drunk karaoke guy. And of course,
what?
they didn't name me, but they were like, "Oh, having a bad night at karaoke? You should have got the Samsung or something." And I'm like, "What the hell?" And I stop, and I'm just looking at myself, and people are going by, going, "Yeah, so that's you, huh?" Or whatever. Or, "Boy, you got an ego," or, "Hey, boy, that's a rough break." And I'm like, "No, I didn't know this existed." And so I never knew I could do anything about it. And I finally tracked down the photographer who was a acquaintance of mine. I don't know why I didn't ask him then. And he just removed it from getting images so nobody else can ever exploit me again, my embarrassment. But I mean, they got a worldwide ad campaign. I didn't get anything because I signed a damn release.
Oh my God, that's crazy. Well, you got fame. You
Yeah,
got
so I mean, I'll add it to my resume now. I was the
yeah,
face of an international Samsung campaign. You
good
know,
for you.
let's see how much they sold with this mug, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a, you know, you're like Chrissy Teigen. You are you're a model.
Oh yeah, I'm definitely Chrissy Teigen. Yeah. So then also you said that you struggled with having the typical writer rejections, like you know the old saw of 99 rejections for every acceptance. So any was there ever like a worst rejection notice?
Um, Let me think about that. I mean, most of them were complete silence. Uh,
Yeah.
that was so that was, but you know, I was when I started out, I was pitching, you know, the tiniest newspapers. So to get rejected from like a newspaper with a
I know
circulation
that's
of
the worst, right?
14, yeah. Or like
Yeah.
I remember I once had to write the advertiser of the week column for the
Oh,
North Beach News in San Francisco, and it was like
I'm sorry.
I thought I thought that, you know, there was supposed to be a wall between ads and an editorial, but this was like, nope, we're going to feature the advertiser and say how great he is. So that was not my, you know, that was not my career high point.
It's moments like that where they need to have like the equivalent of the "It Gets Better" campaign for gay teenagers.
That's a great idea, Carl. You
It
should
gets
do that.
better.
You should
Yeah.
definitely do that.
So, all right. Well, hey, I'm out of my questions. So, and I've stepped all over you too many times. So I think we're out of time here, folks. I want to thank you for watching and listening. And I want to thank AJ for, you know, being a guest and being subjected to my whimsy. And so what would you like to plug? Where can people find your work? I guess all over Amazon and things like that. But
Sure.
what's your website?
AJJacobs.com or Twitter at AJJacobs or whatever you want. But I love being on your show, Carl, and those are great stories.
Thank
The
you.
Rachel Bloom one, that is a classic. Congratulations.
Oh, thanks. Yeah.
All right. Well, I can't wait to hear it when it comes out, and I'll send you the recording.
Yeah. Thanks, man. All right. Bye, everybody.
Thanks.
Thanks. Okay. See ya.
See you, Carl.
Bye.